The desert wind cut through the canyon like a whip, carrying dust and sand that stung her cheeks. Clara stumbled along the rocky trail, her small bundle of belongings clutched tightly to her chest. She had nowhere to go, no family, no home, no safety. Each step was heavier than the last, her legs trembling from exhaustion and fear. The sun dipped low behind the jagged cliffs, casting long shadows that made the already harsh landscape feel infinite and unforgiving. She knew she couldn't survive the night exposed like this, yet she had nowhere to turn, nowhere to seek refuge. Every instinct screamed danger, but survival demanded she keep moving. From the ridge above, Cole, the rancher, noticed the small figure struggling across the rocks. A seasoned man of the West, he had seen many travelers, wanderers, and desperate souls, but something about her caught his attention. Her vulnerability, the raw desperation in her pace, and the way the wind seemed to almost push her backward. Without hesitation, he guided his horse down the slope and approached cautiously, observing her from a safe distance before calling out in a calm but firm voice. "Hey there, you're not safe out here. Come with me." Clara froze at the sound, fear flaring in her chest. She had learned to trust no one, to rely only on herself, and the thought of accepting help from a stranger made her stomach twist. Yet, the cold, the fatigue, and the realization that darkness was approaching left her with no choice. Her trembling hands released her bundle slightly, and she whispered, I don't have anywhere to go." Cole's heart clenched at her words. In that moment, he understood the depth of her isolation, and the weight of responsibility pressed on him like a physical force. Cole dismounted and approached slowly, keeping his hands visible, his expression open and reassuring. "It's all right," he said gently. "You don't have to be alone tonight. Come with me. There's warmth and shelter at my ranch." Clara's eyes flicked toward him, hesitant, torn between fear and the desperate hope for safety. Slowly, she nodded, her exhaustion overtaking her pride and distrust. Cole extended a steady hand, and she accepted it, letting him guide her down the path toward the distant cabin he called home. Each step she took with him was a small surrender, a tiny act of trust she had almost forgotten she could give. The cabin appeared at the edge of a clearing, humble and solid, with smoke curling from the chimney. Cole led her inside, brushing snow or dust from her coat and placing a blanket over her shoulders. He guided her to the hearth, where the fire crackled and offered warmth unlike anything she had felt in days. Clara sank to her knees near the flames, her face pale, her lips trembling, and for a long moment neither spoke. Words were unnecessary. The simple presence of safety and warmth conveyed more than any conversation could. Cole set out a modest meal of bread, cheese, and water, coaxing her to eat gently. Clara hesitated at first, fear and distrust holding her back, but hunger eventually won. She nibbled slowly, glancing at him uncertainly, as if testing whether this kindness was real or just another trick of the cruel world. Cole met her gaze softly, conveying reassurance. "You're safe now. No one's going to hurt you here." The sincerity in his voice seemed to break a small barrier inside her, and for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to believe, even just a little, that she could survive the night without fear. The hours stretched into night. Outside, the wind rattled the cabin walls, and shadows danced across the room from the flickering fire. Inside, Cole maintained a quiet vigilance, watching her carefully without hovering, allowing her space but making his presence felt. Clara shivered occasionally, not entirely from cold, but from the residual tension of days spent on her own, surviving every moment. Cole knelt beside her, his voice low and soothing. "You can stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out the next step together." Clara looked up at him, eyes glistening, and whispered, "Why are you helping me?" Cole's gaze softened, a rare vulnerability in his rugged features. "Because everyone deserves a chance to be safe. And right now, that's what you need. You don't have to be alone anymore." The weight of his words sank in. Clara had been alone for so long that the idea of being truly cared for felt foreign, almost frightening. Yet the warmth in the cabin, the fire, and the steady reassurance of Cole's presence began to melt the icy shell around her heart. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, she allowed herself to lean into trust. By the end of part 1, Clara had moved from desperation and isolation to the tentative beginnings of trust and hope. The rancher, Cole, had stepped into her life as protector, guide, and anchor. Their bond, forged in crisis and compassion, promised the possibility of safety, emotional healing, and perhaps the seeds of something deep. The stage was set for challenges to come, both from the unforgiving Wild West and from the fragile process of trust. But the foundation had been laid. She now had somewhere to belong, somewhere she could stay, and someone she could rely on. The first night in the cabin passed quietly, though Clara barely slept. The warmth of the fire and the safety of the walls offered comfort, yet her mind raced with the memories of her lonely journey. She had survived cold nights, harsh winds, and the uncertainty of a world that had given her nothing but fear. Now, in this small cabin with Cole's watchful presence, she began to realize the fragility of trust, and yet a tiny flicker of hope began to grow. Every sound outside, the howl of wolves, the rustle of trees, reminded her that danger still existed, but inside she felt the first real hint of protection she had known in weeks. Cole spent the morning checking on the livestock, ensuring fences were secure, and preparing a simple breakfast. Clara followed him cautiously, observing his movements, trying to gauge the rhythm of life on the ranch. She wanted to help, to be useful, but uncertainty and shyness held her back. Cole noticed her hesitation and encouraged her gently. "You don't have to do everything at once," he said kindly. "Just take it one step at a time. I'll show you." His patience was a balm, and slowly Clara began to assist with small tasks, feeding the chickens, gathering eggs, and carrying water for the animals. Each success brought a small smile to her face, a reminder that she could contribute, that she could belong. By midday, clouds had gathered, and the wind picked up again, rattling the cabin and reminding Clara that the wilderness outside remained unforgiving. Cole suggested they work near the barn to avoid the worst of the gusts. As they moved through the open fields, Clara clung closely, instinctively seeking the security of his presence. A sudden gust nearly sent her stumbling, but Cole's steady hand caught hers. "You're all right," he reassured her. "I've got you. You don't need to face this alone." The simple words carried profound weight, a promise of protection she had never known. When a stray horse wandered near the fence, spooked by the wind, Clara froze, her heart racing with fear. Cole acted quickly, calming the animal with quiet words and firm gestures, and then turned to her. "See, nothing to fear," he said softly. "Step by step, you'll learn to trust yourself, and me, too." She nodded, trembling but listening. The lesson was more than just handling animals. It was learning to navigate the world again, to find courage after fear had dominated her life for so long. Evening fell with a blazing sunset, painting the plains in hues of gold and crimson. Clara and Cole returned to the cabin, bodies tired but spirits strengthened. Cole guided her to the hearth, helping her remove damp layers and settle by the fire. He handed her a warm mug of broth, and she sipped slowly, feeling nourishment reach deep into her chilled bones. The silence between them was comforting, filled with unspoken understanding and mutual awareness. Clara realized she no longer needed to shield herself entirely. Cole's presence was enough to let her feel safe. The following day, Cole introduced Clara to more responsibilities around the ranch. He demonstrated how to mend fences, tend to the animals, and store food properly. Each task was deliberate, paced carefully to match her growing confidence. Clara worked alongside him, her movements still cautious, yet gradually more assured. Cole's steady guidance and unhurried patience allowed her to build not only skills, but also trust in herself. She began to see the ranch as a place of refuge, a sanctuary that could shelter her body and heart from the harshness of the outside world. One late afternoon, a distant thunderstorm rolled across the plains, darkening the sky and sending gusts of wind through the cabin. Clara's anxiety spiked. She had experienced storms alone before, and the memories of fear resurfaced. Cole noticed immediately, taking her hand in his and speaking softly. "We're safe here. Nothing can hurt us. You can stay with me and we'll get through this together." She leaned into him instinctively, comforted by his words and touch. The storm outside became a test of their bond, and together they endured it, turning fear into shared strength. As the days passed, Clara's trust in Cole deepened. She began to speak more freely, sharing small fragments of her past and her fears. Cole listened patiently, never rushing, never judging, only offering steady reassurance. Their conversations, simple yet profound, became a bridge between her isolation and the connection she had longed for. Each story she told, each fear she confessed, was met with care, and gradually the icy wall she had built around her heart began to thaw. By the end of part 2, Clara had transitioned from vulnerability to cautious confidence. She had learned to navigate the ranch, handle responsibilities, and, most importantly, trust Cole. The foundation of their relationship, built on protection, patience, and compassion, was solidifying into something deeper. Emotional intimacy, mutual respect, and a shared sense of belonging. The harsh Wild West remained outside, but within the cabin and the ranch, Clara found safety, warmth, and the possibility of home. The following morning, the plains were quiet, bathed in soft golden sunlight. Clara woke early, feeling a newfound sense of security she had not known in months. The cold, the fear, the endless nights of uncertainty all seemed distant memories now. Cole was already up, checking on the livestock and repairing a fence. When he noticed her stirring, he smiled gently and called her over. "Breakfast is almost ready. Come help me with the horses." Clara hesitated briefly, then joined him, her steps steady but careful. The simple act of routine, once terrifying to her, now felt comforting, almost grounding. As they worked side by side, Clara noticed how different life could feel with someone by her side. The tasks were the same: feeding, cleaning, and tending, but Cole's presence transformed them. He guided her without condescension, corrected mistakes with patience, and celebrated small successes with quiet encouragement. She began to feel capable, not just surviving, but contributing. And with each passing hour, the bond between them deepened, unspoken but undeniable, a tether of trust and care that had grown from the night she had nowhere to go.